G'day, I'm Paul. So a little while back, I bought a Toyota Supra and we actually shot a video on the reasons I bought the Supra and a couple of the things that I've done to it and the cars that I considered instead of the Supra. Well, since then, we've used it in a drag comparison with the mighty GR Yaris. And today I thought I'd do a video on the 6 things I hate. Well, actually, hate's probably a strong word. The 6 things I strongly dislike about the Supra and things that I've learned to live with while owning the Supra. So I'll go through that in just a second. Before we get stuck into the video though, I wanted to give you guys a massive thank you for the support. Last year, we grew the channel from 0 subscribers to almost 70,000 subscribers at the time we filmed this in under a year. That makes me extremely happy and I love the fact that you guys are enjoying the content. As always, I would love your feedback. So if there's anything you're liking or not liking, let me know in the comments section below. Get in touch with us. We are really always open to feedback. We have a massive year planned with new types of content, different little bits and pieces happening as well. So really excited for that. And as always, if you want to get in touch with me, I'm on social media at Paul Marrick on like Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all that sort of stuff. So hunt me down, send me through any questions that you have. But let's get stuck into 6 things I hate about my Supra. Okay, number 1, wind buffeting. You know when you're driving in a car and someone puts their window down and you've got someone else put their window down and you get this really big pressure build up and it hurts your ears? Well, that's what it's like driving a Supra with the window down, except it's like all the time and it's at sort of cruising speeds as well. It is so frustrating. When you put your window down, you just get this constant buffeting inside the cabin. It seriously does your head in. The worst part about this to me is that you can fix it with like a $10 part. You literally just attach a part to the leading edge of the mirror here and it solves the issue. Now, we've got an overlay here of what it sounds like. You're probably not going to be able to pick it up. You've got to experience it in person, but hopefully it gives you an idea of what it feels like when you drive with the window down. The thing that frustrates me the most though is that they do hundreds of thousands of kilometers of engineering in these cars before they're released. Surely someone at some point during that time put their window down and realized that there was a big problem. So I think this is a big miss by Toyota. Normally they're pretty good with engineering things, and I think this is something that they should have picked up during the engineering process. But further to that, they still haven't fixed it with the 2021 update. So the 2021 update still has the exact same problem, even though they knew about it when they released this because customers told them, and then they still haven't fixed it. So yeah, not good. Moving on to number 2. This one's small, it's a little bit trivial, but it's important to me because I love music. The sound system in this car just really isn't very good. So I bought the top spec. In Australia, it's called the GTS, and it comes with a JBL branded sound system. And that includes 2 speakers behind the driver and the front passenger. The problem is that they distort when you turn it up. So you have to resort to turning the bass all the way down so that you don't have the speakers distorting. So a lot of owners have actually installed aftermarket sound systems into their cars because the standard sound system just really isn't very good. And it's a bit disappointing. It's kind of like that wind buffeting thing. It's something they should have picked up during that initial phase of engineering. It's almost like they focused all on driving dynamics and didn't think about the practical things that people are going to be living with day to day. And for me, a sound system is really important. If I had the option of paying extra money for a better sound system, I would have, but this is the best sound system you can get in the Supra at the moment. Moving on to number 3. This is possibly the most random thing in the world, but the screen is just never bright. It is always super dim and it's just really hard to see it while you're driving during the daytime. I've tried adjusting this control off to the side that controls how bright the infotainment screen and the screen ahead of the driver is, but never seems to really do much. But the problem is there's a light sensor just in this cluster here. It basically picks up the level of light inside the cabin, and then when there's more light, it increases the brightness of the screen so it's easier to see. Well, this is something else they didn't really calibrate during the engineering process, because if I get my phone out and switch the light on and shine that onto the sensor, the screen goes incredibly bright straight away. Then I pull it away and it goes dark again. Put it back on there and it's bright again. So this is just yet another thing that during the engineering process, they were focusing on the driving dynamics and stuff like that, but didn't think of the practicalities. And again, if this screen was running while they were engineering the car, they would have seen how hard it was to actually see. And then the brighter it is, you actually need sun coming in through the side window onto that cluster to have the screen fully light up. So yeah, not a very practical thing and is pretty frustrating when driving this car day to day as a daily driver. Okay, number 4. Now, to some of you, this is going to seem super trivial, but let me explain. This is only really valid for Toyota in Australia, where they sell the Supra. It may be valid in some other countries as well, but specifically Toyota Australia. Now, the Supra, as you know, has BMW internals and it uses iDrive. BMW offers a service called Connected Drive, and that brings with it maps with traffic. So you can basically put in a destination and it will send you around traffic if it needs to. It also gives you the ability to add apps to your car, such as smartphone mirroring, Apple CarPlay. Now, Toyota doesn't offer that in Australia because even though BMW Connected Drive online services are available in Australia, Toyota for some reason hasn't signed up to that. They haven't put an embedded SIM in any of the Supras. So in Australia, you don't have some of these services. Now, where this becomes a problem is with navigation. So if I jump into the car and I want to go somewhere, I can put the navigation destination in, but it will send me the way that it thinks is the fastest without any traffic. So I often find myself just stuck in immense traffic around Melbourne because it thinks that's the fastest way to go, even though there's traffic that it doesn't know about. So it has no idea that around it there's traffic. So the alternative is to just use your phone, but you can't do smartphone mirroring onto this because you can't add that app to it. So you have to go and do like an aftermarket hack to make it work, and it's really frustrating. And you will understand how frustrating it is when you're in a massive hurry, you have no idea where you're going, you put the destination in and you end up being like 20 minutes late because it sends you down away with heaps of traffic. So anyway, a bit of a grumble, but as a daily driver, it really frustrates me that they don't have online services when you can get online services in the Supra virtually everywhere else in the world that it's sold. Number 5 is launch control. Okay, so this is an interesting one because we've done a lot of performance testing in the Supra, and just recently my car was in another video we shot. It was a drag comparison up against the GR Yaris. You can click up here to watch that one. Heaps of fun to film. The problem is with launch control, this doesn't have a dual clutch transmission. So it has a torque converter, and with dual clutch transmissions, you can dial up revs, it can drop a clutch, and then bang, it goes. With a torque converter, it has to stall up and then you let go of the brake and then away you go. This has a slightly interesting system. So to activate launch control, you've got to put it into like a limited stability mode that allows the rear wheels to spin. You then hold the brake really firmly and hit the throttle all the way down to the kickdown switch. Now, when you're at the kickdown switch, it comes up with a little message that says launch control active. And it's at that point that you sidestep the brake and away you go. It's meant to manage wheel slip and give you the fastest time. I've never actually been able to achieve the claimed 0 to 100 km/h time in my car. It's meant to be just over 4 seconds, but the closest we've got to is about 4.6 seconds on a slight incline. Now, someone did actually tell me in the comments section of that drag comparison video that once you hit the kickdown, you can actually release the throttle a little bit so that it doesn't launch with full fury. So I'm keen to give that a shot, but for the moment, that's one of my grumbles with the car. It really is quite difficult to get a clean launch out of it without having the traction control intervening and it cutting torque and just killing the whole experience. I just wish it was a little bit more flexible with the way that it launched and that the traction control was a little better with the launch control active. Number 6, lucky last. Now, this is going to be a little bit contentious, this one, and it is resale value. Now, the reason this hasn't gone so well in Australia, and I don't know whether this is the same case overseas where the Supra is sold, but certainly in Australia, the resale value of Supras has been pretty horrendous. And part of the reason for that is this car was launched, we had to wait to get it in Australia. Typically we have to wait like 6-12 months to get a car finally landed in Australia. So when I had my car delivered in November 2019, it was only a couple of months before Toyota announced, hey, there's a new Supra coming with some different engine components, more power, different suspension. Now, you can see immediately that this will then cause the value of your car to go down because people know there's a new one coming. The problem in Australia, though, is the new one's still a little while away. So you take the resale hit, even though the new one still isn't going to be coming for a little while. The second part of the problem in Australia was that while the initial supply of Supras was extremely limited, they still had a whole stack of Supras with dealers. And dealers were told that for 6 months, they weren't allowed to sell Supras as demonstrator stock. Demonstrator stock is a car that has some mileage on it that they sell for a discount. What happened at that 6-month period, all of the dealers just flooded the second-hand market with their demonstrator stock. Now, a dealer is a business. They get to depreciate their car. They get to claim a lot of tax offsets for having a car sitting on the floor that's used by customers. And as a result of that, they're happier to sell their car for cheaper than any other car on the second-hand market. And that inevitably drives the price of these cars down because all of a sudden you have all of this dealer stock on the second-hand market that is worth far less than what a regular person who paid more money can actually afford to sell their car for. And to put a lot of this into context, I actually did a comparison between the Supra that I bought and also the Tesla Model 3 that I bought. And I looked at all the used second-hand Supras on the market in Australia and the second-hand Model 3s in Australia. These two cars were roughly around the same price. I paid about $110,000 on the road for the Supra and then about $103,000 on the road for the Tesla. And I found that the Supra had depreciated by more than 20%, whereas the Tesla, depending on which side of the market you looked at, whether it was an approved used car through Tesla or just a used car on, one of the used car sites, the difference was absolutely massive. And you can click up here to read that story. And it showed you that even though the Supra was way more limited than the Model 3 when it arrived in Australia, the influencing factors with the dealers and Toyota then announcing a new model really pushed the price of it down compared to Tesla, who's been fairly consistent with the Model 3. So it's good for me as a motoring journalist because I get to write about all the new Toyota models that Toyota is going to be releasing all the time and the updates that Toyota says they will have for the Supra each year. But I think as a long-term strategy, it's actually not going to work that well for Toyota, because if you're like me, you don't want to lose a whole stack of money on a car because you don't want to drive it because you don't want the Ks to go high and you want to just sell it for as close to what you paid for it. People are going to stop buying the Supra because if they buy it and they know that within a year there's a new model coming that's completely different to theirs, you're less likely to want to go buy a brand new one because you know that you're going to lose a stack of money on it. So I'll be keen to see whether that strategy works for Toyota long term and whether they have to have a bit of a rethink and perhaps hold these models together for longer before they announce significant updates to them. So yeah, not too sure about that one. So that has been 6 things I hate about my Supra. Now, don't get me wrong, I actually really like this car. I've enjoyed it far more than I've hated it. These are just things that stand out that I really haven't enjoyed about owning it. And I'd be keen to hear from you in the comments section below. Do you own a Supra? Am I talking out of my ass here, or do you experience some of these things as well that you wish they could have fixed? And what are your thoughts on Toyota updating the Supra constantly? Do you think it's a good strategy, or do you think that over the longer term you're going to have less people buying these because they're worried about it depreciating massively each time a new announcement is made? Really keen to get your feedback. And if you do want to watch the video we initially shot on the reasons I actually bought this car to start with, you can click up here. Now, if you did enjoy this video, make sure you share it, hit the like button, and also subscribe to our channel. Have a look at the rest of the videos we have. We've got fun drag races and other sort of car reviews and bits and pieces, explainer videos and that type of thing. But until next time, take it easy.